Welcome to our April New Moon monologues.
I'm Erin Hutland.
And I'm Grace O'Keefe.
And we are the artistic directors of the Queens of Cups.
And the founders and producers of the New Moon Monologues, a monthly new writing night based on the cycles of the moon.
The new moon this month is in Aries, a passionate, motivated, and confident fire sign. Channeling this Aries energy will push us all to be a little bit more daring and give us the confidence boost we need to make necessary changes in our lives. The new moon is helping us to understand what we want and where we want it, and it's encouraging us to be clear about where we stand on pretty much everything. So we thought this was the perfect month to have our theme as Come Clean. Tonight, we also have some big news to share with you all, so be sure to stick around at the end of the show for our exciting announcement. We hope you enjoy. Let's take a dive into modern politics, into dodgy politicians and their dirty tricks, institutionalized racists, men that think with their dicks, who grew up a different class in public schoolboy cliques. Now, these type of men are on the Tory team, and I think it's about time we force them to come clean. Especially their leader, O Supreme. He needs to answer for his mistakes with COVID-19. And to the ones that picked him to lead us, please don't sit there in false smugness. I think it's important that we discuss the fact that our government is a circus run by a party that's superfluous, and you lot voted in a clown. So come clean, Boris. Come clean. Stay home, save lives, come clean. Just admit that you could have foreseen the pitfalls of your economic schemes. Rejecting scientific facts, what do you mean? Then hard selling herd immunity. Will the virus spread in communities? Locking down too late missed opportunity. And for this, you'll not receive impunity. So come clean, Boris. Come clean. Stay home, save lives, come clean. Tell us what happened to the PPE, because all of your mates made millions of P, while our nurses have fallen on their knees. Only worth an extra £3.50 a week. You Conservatives have got some bloody cheek, because when this virus was at its very peak and the NHS was broken and weak, some gave their lives to meet the country's needs, while you just dithered and faffed and you didn't lead. So come clean, Boris. Come clean. Stay home, save lives, come clean. Confess that things aren't as they seem. That track and trace was just one of your wet dreams. That when England began to come apart at the seams, it was Dominic Cummings who was running your team, while you just became a joke and a meme until your real boss, Carrie, kicked Dom out of her regime. So come clean, Boris. Come clean. Stay home, save lives, come clean. Recognize that, yes, we have a vaccine, but you let people in without quarantine. And then you sat back and didn't intervene until the Kent and Brazil strains went mainstream. So you cancelled the UK's Christmas dreams from Brighton all the way to Aberdeen. So come clean, Boris. Come clean. Stay home, save lives, come clean. Concede that if you had a time machine, you'd go back to the start, to that very first scene, take a different path and try to redeem, make quicker decisions in this new reality. At Cobra meetings, you wouldn't be an absentee. You'd be making calls for collective unity instead of always favouring your bourgeoisie. But sadly, this is a version we shall never see. And kind to you, history will not be. Because in this new world where our leaders are celebrities, operating through divide and rule strategies, inciting hatred and racism aggressively, treating the working class like their enemies, claiming that they can grab women by their pussies. In this new world of corruption and greed, when election day comes, who will our next clown be?
crush. I know, at my age. Well, actually, we've got a crush. Here, Mark. His Majesty. List. Oh, His Majesty ignoring me. Got the list. He's still ignoring me. Not a word. Must have got the hump about something, don't know what. Could do with a shave. Oh, stubble. Yeah, well, facial hair might be it, but only if you're the right side of... And that jumper must be 10 years old. Our weekly trip to Morrison's. Become a highlight now. All thanks to our little discovery. OMG. Jaw-dropping, gob-stopping. Wahid, the gay checkout of Wunderkind. I'm in love, His Madge says. Now I'm looking at a sign above the tin fruit salad which says 3 for 2. Think he'd be up for a threesome. Now, last time we were in, Wunderkind flashed us his new tattoo. Left arm, just below the elbow, probably an accidentally on purpose flash. I bet the management don't take kindly to displays of body art. Tease or what? I've felt this way since we took half an E at the front of a Morecambe and Wise Christmas special rerun on Gold. What's first, I say? Bakery or frozen goods, but his Madge is off on his own. So I'm contemplating this packet of fish fingers when, out of nowhere, Brockwell Park, late at night, 1986. And a dancer with a Northern Ballet right fit bloke. And we climb over the railings, do the full works, half camouflaged by a giant hydrangea. He tastes it. Better go. Catch the last train. Not like I'm remembering, I'm there. I get hard on. I don't get many of those no more. Not unless I put in a lot of effort. His Madge turns into another aisle and I lose him. In front of me are 10 different kinds of low-fat spread and I reach into the cold shelf and there's his Madge at the back of Wunderkind's checkout queue. I walk over, count 6, 7, 8 in front of us, waiting to pay homage to our Wahid. Jealousy. Got a full view now, heartbeat picks up. And his Madge decides on a frantic rummage through my trolley. Toilet rolls, knew you'd forget. Salad cream. Well, that's blown our chances right out of the water. Sif. And this woman turns and smiles insincerely. Now I know what you're thinking, 2 old queers having a domestic. Wahid looks our way, but I sink as he stares right through us. And his Madge and me, we haven't always been bickering biddies. Oh no. Once we got attention for other reasons. Oh, missus, if you only knew you'd like to drop your eggs. I suddenly want to tell the world and Wahid how his Madge and me got together. I'm back there. Paradise in the late 90s. I park my bike against a railing, lock it. The club is disguised by beige paintwork. It might be mistaken for an accountant's office. A small chrome plaque beside the buzzer reads, Paradise Club, members only. You need thick lens glasses to make it out. Even after all this time, my pulse begins to race. I move through the shabby corridor towards Noddy. As usual, he's got a B&H and a packet of Jaffa cakes on the go. His face that could crack a walnut. "All right, mate, all right," he shouts, gaze held by the monitor on the wall that's playing the same thing that's on the big screen downstairs. Sound's been turned off so as not to attract attention from outside. "All right, mate. Judging by today's signings, there'll be plenty to clear up after. Mum must be turning in her grave. Her boy, pushing 40 and cleaning for a living in a sex cinema. But the boss pays cash at above the going rate. No questions about me being on benefits. I get into the club for free whenever the urge takes me, and only 2 hours work a night. Better than hoovering one of them empty, open plan offices but below the minimum wage." "Any down there still, Noddy?" I ask. I know full well it being Sunday, with 1 hour till closing. Back in earlier, we'll be in full swing. Now everything is painted out dark red. There's a smog of poppers, sweat and ciggies. A dozen silhouettes amongst the seas. At the back, nearest me, transvestite, done up like a bad drag queen, apple bobbing between 2 laps. I'll make for the toilet, located in an alcove at the far end. Difficult to believe I could have met someone nice in here last night, but I did. Slipped up. It's so easy inviting him back, like lowering into a warm bath. I bang again on the closed door of the toilet cubicle, hard with both fists. No one here knows I'm positive. In paradise, everyone lives a dream where stuff like that doesn't exist. Or anything else that might make you think there might be consequences. Any sense of risk falls away when you come down those stairs, through those double doors and enter the red depths. Now, in the week, suits flock here after work. It's like a convention sometimes. I've seen bankers tossing off big men. Some try it on with me. I let it happen if I fancy them, else I'll say I'm staff and threaten them with eviction. We get the loners too, who sit on their own, rejecting all advances, never taking their eyes off the screen. Might unzip, have a wank, and leave as if they've just been to the dentist. You know, Noddy told me some geezer died here. Before my time. Said they had the police round and ambulance wailing at the entrance. Had to shut down for 2 weeks because of all the attention. You know, once a month, a contractor comes in and does a deep clean. The seat and all that. I mean, I mop the floor, bleach the toilet and wipe everything over with lemon sif. Cheap lighters are the most common items left behind. I also find coins, even notes occasionally, or child pocket, clear as tips. Now, last week I found a really nice wallet with a platinum Amex 50s and a business card. Careless. At the end of the shift, usually I'm relieved at the prospect of a bed to myself. Something like going back to the womb. Unwashed sheets, only my smell. No awkward aftershocks to deal with. This night, put a lorry-sliced dent into all that. The lights flash on, then off in quick succession. I bang on the toilet door again, shout at them to finish whatever they're up to, closing in 10 minutes. I turn to leave. And there he is. Mark, His Majesty. Ought to have picked someone ugly, just gone for cock. This weakness I have for leggy men. Deep water territory as soon as he opens his mouth. Oh, the soft melt of his voice hooked me right away. From the outset, things were back to front. Phone numbers exchanged first, not last. The touching up, the peeling off, done after. And in between, actual intelligent conversation. Night after my shift, I get home and I'm dead on my feet, but my mind is on the prowl. I'm alone, where I began, with the years I thought I'd never have. I go to the cupboard, I open it, lift the tin of spaghetti. I hesitate for a moment, and snatch a scrap of paper with his number written on it, written like a code. On the back, a chain of words. I let it slowly unfurl in my palm. Go on, the message says. Call me. So I do. His match jostles forward, heavy grocery basket landing with a thud on the conveyor belt. Mark, I say. What? I grab his hand, give it a squeeze. Nothing. As we leave, I throw a cautious wink at Wade, who is already scanning more items. But you know what? He winks back.
Perhaps I should have seen it coming. It's easy, isn't it, to look back and see the signs laid out for you? But I really should have seen it coming. I should have seen it coming right from the start. Right from when my periods changed. Sure, they were never the regular type. They'd always followed their own schedule, but even that operated within the bounds of a certain kind of predictability. They didn't arrive on time, but they never failed to send forth a small battalion of acne to apologise for being late. It would push itself up through my chin, red and shining like a warning sign. And so we managed. They appeared when they wanted to, and I always had a few days head start to get enough pads in before they got here. And then they changed, and I didn't even realise what it meant. At first they just got heavier. You have one bad month and you think you're just stressed, and then two, and okay, you think you're really stressed, maybe you need to do something about that, and the third one comes and you can see that this is just your life now. It's not stress anymore. It's normal. I remember I was in bed. I was working. I had gotten out of bed and then back in again to work. I had put on fresh sheets, which I realise is always a risk, but it was their time. So I was in bed and I was working, and at the back of my mind, there's that a small amount of paranoia around leakages. And I remember feeling myself open and then close. It wasn't, I would say, an unfamiliar feeling, but it also wasn't something that had ever happened before. I was frozen for a moment, terrified that if I moved, I would dislodge whatever had just come out of it. I didn't want to spill, so I ever so slowly pulled back the covers to expose my legs, and so, well, my legs and my pants and my clean sheets. No blood had escaped. I waddled to the bathroom and pulled down my pants to sit on the loo. As they dropped to the floor, I saw that they were cradling an egg. A small egg smeared with blood but brown underneath. I had opened up and out had fallen an egg. I scooped it gently into the palm of my hand. It was the size of a thumbnail perhaps, so quite big actually, given that I can't even see the ones I usually make. I didn't know what to do with it. It was warm. I washed it and I held it, but it never hatched. I did obviously know that this was not normal. I googled it though, just in case. Lots of things come out of the vagina that they don't tell you about. It didn't seem to be something to get too concerned over, and anyway, it wasn't long after that the feathers came, and by then it was too late. They grew through my shoulder blades first. I just assumed it was more acne. They felt like little lumps, hot and sharp to the touch. At night they itched, and I slept on my front, and by morning I had forgotten about them. They spread down my back and up my neck, along my arms, my legs, my stomach. I was covered in these tiny bumps. This was new, I thought. Can Bepanthen fix it? It couldn't. If they're not gone by tomorrow, I'll see someone. They weren't, and I didn't. I slept restlessly, dreaming of falling and other things that all feel too obvious now. And then one day I woke up and I went to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and the bumps had gone because my plumage had come through. And I was a bird. I tried to touch my face, but where I once had fingers, I now had feathers. You would think that I would have felt some kind of horror here, but all I felt was a yearning for the sky. I tried to open the window, but I no longer had the means to do so. To open it, you have to depress a button and turn a handle, and my once were hands barely had the capacity for either action, let alone both simultaneously. I felt incapable of contemplating my predicament. I felt incapable of feeling really anything at all. My newly felt desire to burst out into flight had swollen to fill all of the space in my mind, and any other thought that may have been more sensible to have at this time had been crushed right to the edge of my skull. I tried the door to the balcony. Don't get us wrong, it took me a little more effort than I'm used to, but it did open. I couldn't hold the handle, so I had to turn it with what was formerly my shoulder. I suppose it is now still my shoulder, but it's not the same shoulder I once had. I was out. I was ready, though not in a way that I felt I had prepared for. I tried a few experimental flaps that brought me some way off the floor. I tried to land on the thin grey safety railing that marks the end of my nest and the edge of the outside world, but I wasn't used to my new feet. They required a lot more instruction than my old pair, and I slipped and I crashed. Well, the crash was an old ceramic plant pot that I had been meaning to get rid of. It didn't work anymore and had just been sitting up here broken. It was also my skull, which went down heavy. As I lie here now, I think, it's funny what you think of when you're falling. Even if you're only falling for a moment, you get to think so many things, like how you came to be here and where you were supposed to be going and whether or not you should have seen it coming. I look up at the sky and I think of how much I want to be a part of it. And I feel myself forgetting about before.
It sucks. Okay, that's the only thing I can really think of to say. It sucks that all this time and effort and money and frustration and arguments with my mom over a fucking dress, it just sucks. You know, when I was a kid, I never fantasized about my wedding. It just seems so dumb. I don't know, I mean, other girls did. Shit, other guys did. I can't remember a period in time in which girls around me weren't at least sneakily referencing a future wedding. When I get married, I'll have this, and I'm gonna have this type of garbage at my wedding. It didn't come up constantly, but it came up consistently. Elementary school, junior high school, college, now it just never ends. And I just wanted to yell at all of them. Statistically, only 50% of marriages don't end in divorce, so you'll be happy, you'll be sad, you'll be happy, you'll be sad. And it's not like I have a problem with marriage. I mean, my parents have been married for 20 years and they seem to fucking love it. I just remember thinking that it's one day and then you've got all the days after that and they seem way more important. Yeah, and then all that shit about this being the beginning of a new chapter, I mean, all that's probably true. So what does it matter if it's a buffet or plates or I get a dress from my friend or I try shit on in public with my mom? I'm kind of relieved. Canceling a wedding, one thing I didn't know was on my bucket list, crossed off. Shit, I'm not even having doubts about canceling the wedding. Like, I don't care about the space or the officiant or the fucking cupcakes. But I did want the moment right after it was all over. We would come back here after everything was done and probably sit right on this couch, me in my borrowed dress and you in whatever's left of your suit. And I would know that it was me and you from now on. I would have a goddamn husband, okay? And all that means to me is that I would have my person for all of the days after, hopefully, if neither one of us fucks it up too badly. I think that was the only thing that I was looking forward to from a wedding. The marriage. I guess that's a good sign though, right? But I guess you can't really have one without the other though. But I'll tell you this, when we do get our do-over, we are having a small wedding, understand? I'm talking like 2 hours tops. We got vows, I-dos, tacos, my dad says a few words, we out. They've already started, but I want all of the subsequent days with you. That's it. You know what? Fuck it. I'm starting them now. Officially. Congratulations, boo. We married. Boom.
Hi, the name's Gail. Gail Gardner. Welcome to my house. Sorry about the mess. How are you today? Fine, good. First off, let me say how sorry I am that I can't welcome you here properly. I'm usually a fantastic hostess. But this whole event has got me absolutely frazzled. Normally, I would invite you in, you'd already have a drink in your hand, some hors d'oeuvres on a plate, and we'd be having a grand time talking about whatever brought you here in the first place. Not today. Today I have something else to contend with. Henry. Stay, motherfucker! Unless you want some of this! Ah! It's not like I wouldn't welcome some company right now. And while it's not unusual to find multiple guests here at any one time, I do like my parties after all. I can't see this being that type of occasion. Besides, Henry isn't in any position to socialize anyway. Not that he was that big of a talker when he was alive. What? Oh, forgive me, you don't know, do you? Allow me to explain. Henry kicked it last week. That's right, he dropped dead last Monday morning. Right there, at the kitchen table. Our breakfast conversation was the usual, just like every morning. I would tell him not to wolf down his food, as it was bad for him, as usual. And he would ignore what I said, and wolf it down anyway, as usual. He had his eggs, his bacon, his toast, his coffee, and his coronary, in that order. Good thing, too, he had just cleaned his plate right before he face-planted into it. So, while he still ended up with egg on his face, it was only metaphorically. Because Henry never listened. Not to me. Not to anyone. Oh, sure, he listened to his bosses on the job, but only so much. He did everything his way. When he got laid off, he did that his way too. He punched the time clock for the last time. Then he walked over and punched his supervisor for the last time. Said he wanted to leave a lasting impression, and he did, in his supervisor's forehead. Yeah, that was Henry. But he was never mean to me, if that's what you're thinking. In fact, Henry just tended to ignore me. 27 years of marriage, and I think the only thing he ever heard me say was, I do. Just like I do swear I will end you. You don't settle down this motherfucking instant, you tiny cocksucker! Ah! Do you know what it means to be the second half of a one-sided conversation? Didn't matter if I initiated it. How was your day, Henry? What time does the game come on, Henry? I think I broke my arm, Henry. And his response? Silence. Or the occasional grunt of acknowledgement. It wasn't as if he was refusing to answer. No. He just never listened enough to anything I said that anything ever registered on him. As far as he was concerned, we weren't talking. And since we weren't talking, just I was, he had no obligation to listen. Which made me unnecessary to any communication we might have had. Can you believe that? Unnecessary to a conversation in which I was the only contributor. Fuck me. And fuck you too, you little turd machine! So then, last Monday morning happened. Now, I'll admit, when he first went face down onto his plate, I wasn't sure what he was doing. After I asked him once, twice, 8 times what was wrong without an answer, I just assumed Henry was being Henry. I was about to turn back to the sink, but something made me look closer. And as I went closer, I started to listen. For an answer, at first. And breathing. Finally for a heartbeat. But Henry was gone. I cried a lot the next few days. I cried here. I cried at the hospital. I cried at the funeral home. I cried at the cemetery. But I'm not really sure why. I mean, the shock of what happened. The loss of someone you were around every day. The uncertainty of not knowing what I should do or what I would do now that they were gone. It made sense to cry over that. Everyone expects that. But in the back of my mind, I had the nagging thought that Henry's death wasn't as big a loss as our friends made it out to be. They were just looking out for me, I suppose. They needed to be supportive. And don't get me wrong, I did love him, you know. At one time. Henry could be a good man in so many ways. He just wasn't in the one way that mattered. Or maybe the problem was I wasn't the one that mattered. To him, that is. But I bet I matter now. Don't know, you little shithead. What's that? You want some more of this? You bitch! Just warming up, you little fuckhole! I'm normally a church-going woman. Really, I am. But there is an abomination under that bucket. I'm assuming you figured that out already. I certainly wasn't ready for that. I just buried my husband, you understand, and was not in the best frame of mind for that thing to show up. In retrospect, I suppose it made sense. I haven't exactly been Susie Homemaker these last number of days. I was preoccupied with Henry. So the last thing in the world I ever expected to show up when I got home from the cemetery was Henry. That's right. I said exactly what you thought I said. My late husband, Henry Allen, motherfucker, Gardner. Oh, don't look so horrified. It's not like I have a severed head under there. Is that what you thought? I've got a living head under there. Oh, no. No. That would be silly. I do have Henry under there. But not just his head. No, I've got the body, the head, the arms and legs, even the tail. Yes, there's a tail. Because it's a rat. Rats have tails. And I have got a big, fat, old rat under there with that nasty old tail on him. I couldn't believe it. I come home after the funeral, and there on the plate I had neglected to put in the sink a few days ago was this awful, hairy, stinky, ugly motherfucker of a rat eating the last few crumbs of bacon from Henry's last meal. You know what I did? I screamed at the top of my lungs. But they probably heard me 2 streets over. And what did that little shitbag do? He kept right on eating. Didn't budge an inch. So I slapped the bucket over him, plate and all. I grabbed my ladle and I jumped on this chair. Oh, don't tell me he's harmless. He's a disgusting rat. No, rats are fucking rat fucks, and that one especially. I know for a fact that is no ordinary rat. Oh, no. That rat is my son of a bitch husband. Oh, yeah, that's Henry, all right. My reincarnated goddamn son of a bitch rat bastard of a rat bastard husband. No, make no mistake. No, I am certain of it. And how do I know, do you ask? How do I know of all the rat bastards in the world that this particular one is my rat bastard husband? I'll show you. Look alive, douchebag! Mom has got a question for you. Okay? Want to tell the nice folks how I know it's you? Henry! Rise and shine! Tell everyone how I know it's you, Henry! 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 God damn it, answer me! There. Did you hear that? Did you? I sure as hell did. I heard a fat lot of nothing. Nothing but silence. So like him. He hasn't squeaked, he hasn't squealed, he hasn't chirped, peeped, nothing. Typical Henry. Even now, when I hold all the power, I have the ladle of life or death, Henry, do you hear me? I have the ladle, you will respect the fucking ladle, Henry! See, he still won't answer me. That is so like him. I know you want to see him, don't you? You want to see what all the fuss is about. You want to cuddle him and coo over him. I'd like to oblige, but I can't take a chance. You see, I hate rats. I hate them. They get into everything. They carry fleas and mites and autism, probably. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past the little creeps. Besides, if he got loose, I'd have to call an exterminator. And I don't want that. I couldn't do that to Henry. I still love him for some reason. Even though I also hate him. Love the man, hate the rat. But I also hate the man, which makes me want to keep the rat. It's complicated. You know, something has just occurred to me. I have an opportunity here, don't I? Henry may have kicked the bucket. He seemed to have ended up back in it, or under it. And maybe he's going to be a rat for the rest of his resurrected life. But it's not like we ever had scintillating conversations when he was a man. That doesn't mean I can't hold up my end of the conversation, now does it? Henry's kind of a captive audience, isn't he? And will continue to be once I get a cage for him. I have a feeling come mealtime, Henry will see just how important I am to the conversation. And I plan to have a lot of those. A whole lot of those. What do you think of that? Would you like that, Henry? Oh, don't bother to answer. I'd like that. And that's really all that matters.
When you were younger, you used to pull out your hair. It started with your eyebrows. I'd watch in awe as you ravaged them. Each pluck to me an act of extreme violence, which after a while, if I watched, made me numb. When you first mentioned God, I wasn't too fazed. Well, it seemed like the logical next step for the overly sensitive, slightly lost teenager you'd become. I wouldn't bat an eyelid when you'd kneel down at the foot of your bed in our shared bedroom and say a rosary. You'd ask me to join you every night. Every single night, even though I'd always say no and often put on headphones. I was slightly distracted when you changed the picture of us at Whipsnade Zoo for one of St Bernadette. But I thought it was a phase. Your eyebrows stopped growing after a while, and that's when you moved on to your scalp. Frenzied attack. Desperate to cleanse yourself. I'd remind you that Mary Magdalene anointed Jesus' feet with her hair. But after all, you didn't even bother to hide the patches. The day you sat us down, I remember finally understanding. You said it was a calling, that God had spoken to you even though I'd never heard him. You were just being honest, coming clean, but it felt dirty, sordid, secret. 3 weeks later, we bundled you into the car with nothing but your faith and trust, and you and Dad drove off into the distance. I searched your half of our room that night. I tore it up and I found months and months of aspiration and communication, and I left it as a shrine to you. Well, apart from Bernadette. I took that picture and tore it in half again and again and again and again until it was a sweat wet mush in my hands. But here you are. I wonder if you know the anger that I've directed at you over the years. But if you do, you don't show it. You forgive. You broke your vows. Something with the bishop and the diocese. A mild scandal that you won't go into yet. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. Which is, it's funny because that's how you justified it to us at the start. Wonder if you know how many things you've broken over the last 6 years? Well, I don't mention it though. I couldn't because you're here. Really here, and I can't show you just how relieved I am. So we slip right back into it. Stroll on the beach. Sea breeze trying to knock us over. I suggest that we get chips because we have not had chips on Aldborough Beach since you were 15 and you just started taking out your confusion on your eyebrows. I want to apologise. Well, I want you to apologise, but you buy the chips, so I've no choice but to forgive you. You tut when I ask you to pass me an extra sachet of salt, and I want to spit at you because I don't know who I am to you anymore, so we stride on. I just want you to pass me the salt. But you don't. Or you won't, you just talk and talk and talk about everything and nothing, and I want to tell you to shut up and pass me the salt, but I don't because you just won't stop. You haven't even paused for a breath, and I wonder, I really very seriously consider that you might not ever. You might just carry on talking until every piece of air has left your lungs and you crumple up like a punctured tyre onto the floor. I raise my voice and I ask you to pass me the salt, and you do, but you roll your eyes and you start to lecture me about my blood pressure, and you've just stepped back into that role of being my sister after 6 years. I'm glad that you have stopped for breath. And I look at you walking along and talking. Because since we started, you haven't stopped. You walk up to the edge of the sea. You take off your shoes, roll up your jeans, and you dip your toes into the waves. Even though it's March and it's freezing. From here, I watch as you baptise yourself back into this life at the North Sea. Shedding off this skin of shame that you carried with you on our walk. Coming clean once again, but into your new life, which is a lot like an old one, but upside down. You spread your arms, and I know you're praying. As I stand there and watch you, this thought hits me like a wave. I want to tell you that I love you. Because I don't remember the last time I said it to you. I want to shout over to you that I love you, because one day one of us will die and I won't have said it, and I don't want another day to go by without having said it to you. But as soon as you come back to me, drying your feet on the pebbles, you're talking. No, I don't want you to ever stop.
Eight. I read an article that says it takes about 8 years for your body to replace all of its cells. Every blood cell, stem cell, skin cell traded in for new. I print this off and staple it to my diary. Set a calendar reminder for 8 years' time. I spend the rest of the year counting down days and staring into mirrors, looking for signs of change, looking for anything that will reassure me that eventually no part of me will have been touched by you. 7. Change doesn't come quickly enough. I've always been impatient, but I thought something would feel different after a year. Brighter skin, fewer spots, I don't know. But it doesn't come. So I start washing more. My clothes, my hands, my hair, my skin. The washing machine is always on. Electricity bill's gone through the roof. When finally, one morning, I notice pink rashes spreading across my fingers and cracks in my knuckles when I clench my fists. I wonder if this is how it starts. If this is my equivalent of a snake shedding her skin. But when I go to the doctor, she explains the only thing I'm doing is giving myself eczema. She gives me a prescription for this greasy cream and makes me promise to use it. So I do. And then I immediately get in the shower and scrub it all off. 6. I'm staying the night at a friend's house, and before we go to bed, she warns me not to use her mouthwash. She says she bought it by mistake and swears it strips your taste buds right off. There's no way this should be legal. When she's asleep, I slip out to the bathroom and swill as much of it around my mouth as possible. I hold it there until my tongue throbs and my cheeks go numb. On the way home the next morning, I stop at the chemist and buy 3 bottles. 5. I'm getting through soap and body scrubs quicker than I can buy them, and my hands and feet are always pruny, but still, in the shower one day, I find dirt hiding under one of my fingernails. Traitor. It's sitting too deep below the nail to scrub at, and when I try and reach it with my finger, it only pushes the dirt down further. I need something sharp, thinner, like the blade from my razor. But that's crazy, isn't it? That's definitely, I shouldn't do that. But I get so hung up thinking about what else could be festering behind the half moon of my nail that before I can stop myself, I slice the blade under and swipe out the dirt. Relief washes over me. And then so too does blood. A few days later, when I'm buttering toast, I realise my nail's fallen off. 4. I'm meeting up with an old friend from university. The kind who I wouldn't be friends with if I met her for the first time now, but we're friends because we were friends. She writes a lot of posts on LinkedIn about how developing true digital agility is a critical strength in an organisation's activity portfolio in order to survive unanticipated losses. I don't know what that means, but when I see her, I tell her it's great how much she's loving her job. She reminds me that it's not just that she loves it, she's very good at it too. In between sips of red wine, she gives me a full guided tour of all her accomplishments since the last time we spoke. But anyway, enough about me. Tell me about you. I want to know everything. There's not really much to tell. Don't be coy with me. I bet you're doing something annoyingly brilliant, aren't you? Like I bet you... Oh my God, I totally forgot to tell you. How can I forget? Guess who I bumped into the other day? Don't say it. 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 I have no idea. Richard? Isn't that crazy? And think, I'd gone 4 years without hearing your name. On the tube home, I can't stop thinking about that time when you kissed my shoulder. And when I get back, I use the silver kitchen scourer to scrub away at where your lips have once been. It takes 40 minutes to reach bone. 3. I wake up in the middle of the night feeling sick. The wound on my shoulder never healed. I hoped it would scar over. Shiny new skin. But if anything, it's gotten worse. Slowly imploding over the year. Maybe that's what's making me feel like this. I licked the last drop of milk in an empty cereal bowl with the spoon still in it from the morning. It's worse than I imagined underneath. I use it to scrape off the peeling scab on my shoulder, like black mould in a forgotten shower. I scoop it out, along with pieces of decomposing muscle and crumbling bone, and soon enough I've excavated this entire corner of my body. But the sickness is still there, in the old parts of me, in the dying cells deep down. I push the spoon in deeper and dig up everything in its path. A heart, lungs, old clothes, arteries, stomach, songs I used to listen to, kidneys, the smell of your cologne, spleen. I scoop them out into a pile on my bed and the sickness subsides. 2. The empty space inside me has made a happy home for spiders and bugs. I can hear them crawling around when it's quiet, feel them tickling my ribcage at night. I Google how to get rid of pests. I'm trying to do a video of a witch cleansing her altar instead. Soothing. Watching the smoke from her incense snake across the tablecloth. And I like the way her gentle voice assures the camera that you don't have to use incense. Anything that smokes will cleanse your sacred space. I fetch a box of matches from the cupboard and set one alight. I drop it down my throat and feel it singe my spine as it falls. My body alights and burns like coal fire. I cough up soot for months after. 1. I'm FaceTiming my mum for the first time in weeks. She's relieved to hear from me, but wants to know when I'll see her next. I don't know, June, maybe? It's been so long since the last time you were home. You'll have to wear a name tag when we pick you up from the station. We'll hardly recognise you. Hasn't been that long, Mum. It has. Well, you didn't have those freckles the last time I saw you. Since when did you have freckles? I don't have freckles. You do. I can see them all over your nose and cheeks. Oh, come home, love. We miss you. We say our goodbyes and her rosy face disappears from my screen. And in my phone camera I realise she's right. It does look like freckles. But on closer inspection I can see they're not brown specks at all, but green spears that are gently poking out from my skin. Snowdrop shoots. And the harsh purple veins on my eyelids have gone, replaced now by a delicate web of roots. And at the end of my eyelashes sit tiny pearls of blossom. Spring is coming. 0.
There was an osprey circling way up high on the last day of school. We watched it from the bike path, remember? We watched it over the river. You said we'd be late, but I wanted to stop. They almost look like they're working together. Just hanging in the air and then zoom, bang, up with the fish. God, I'd love to be able to fish like that. Wouldn't you? We were happy. I mean, we did it. We got through freshman year. We were gonna go celebrate. I had money in my pocket. We were gonna go get milkshakes. I hate talking to you in this, what's it called? You're the one who's good at English, not me. Past tense. The past tense. You in English class, hand raised, all the right answers. You had all the right answers. Running, kicking the ball, stop! I want to watch the ospreys, look at them. Now you're just some dumb kid who... I'm sorry. You're not. It's cold here. The trees and the moss and... Why did you have to be there right then, huh? Now I'm here and you're where? Huh? The boulders up above me? The water down below? Are you the osprey circling? God, see what you did? Now I sound like I'm in English class again. I feel you when I'm here, though. It's like church. Like the trees are this cathedral, and when I'm here, I don't miss you so much. The water on my face washes away Your mom's okay. She came to graduation. They had your name in the program. I walked for you. They gave your mom your diploma. I miss you. Do you miss me?
On Tuesday, midway through replacing the aortic valve in a patient's heart, I was hit with the sudden realization that I hadn't put the bins out. I don't know what it was that triggered it, except that staring into this man's open chest reminded me of carving the chicken at the weekend and scraping the carcass into the food bin. The same food bin that was currently sitting underneath the sink, and not at the end of my drive. I couldn't think of anything else. It was really not ideal for two reasons. Firstly, having a clear mind is generally preferable during surgery. And secondly, it meant another 2 weeks before the recycling would be collected. Aortic valves can fail for many reasons. In this case, in this patient, it was stenosis, a narrowing of the valve itself, caused by a build-up of calcium and fatty deposits. Basically, his heart had become so clogged with crap it couldn't function anymore. So we cut out and replace. Then the bins gave way to Gemma. I didn't want to think of her, but I did. Not all of her, but flashes of her. Bit by bit. Her hair, her summer dresses, her calm patience, her skin and her breasts, her painting on the hallway wall, her fingernails, her tears and her cries, her drafting table in the spare room, her neck, her always odd socks, her lying on the kitchen floor, her empty wardrobe in our bedroom, her breasts again. I was half aware that I should be concentrating on the operation, but instead all these thoughts flooded into my head. I guess it was because Gemma would normally put the bins out. In the last month there were lots of things I realised I didn't know how to do. Duvets into duvet covers for one. I can perform an off-pump coronary artery bypass, can attach a vein taken from a leg to a still-beating heart, but I can't put a duvet into a duvet cover. My first off-pump bypass, which also happened to be my first death, was back when I was still on my foundation year. I'd only been observing, though I'd spoken to the patient pre-op. We had the same birthday. During the procedure, the patient went into cardiac arrest. We tried to defibrillate, to shock the heart into correcting itself, but it didn't work. And as he died, my ears filled with sound, like a deafening, all-encompassing roaring in my head, a sort of internal panic attack, I suppose. And through that, I was watching the consultant, watching as, with complete detachment, he simply walked out of the theatre as if nothing had happened. I was in awe. I guess he'd noticed something wasn't right, because he made me run with him afterwards. We must have covered 5 or 6 miles, running fast enough that we couldn't talk until we were back. Then he told me, quite simply, he said, "Stop seeing the patient. Stop seeing the person. Look, but don't see." "We're priests taking confession," he said. "Patients literally open their hearts to us. If we have a good day, they'll be cleansed, renewed, repaired. On a bad day, well, we've just seen that. And either way, we have to protect ourselves. No matter what happens with the patient, we have to protect ourselves." This was his lesson. I got very good at it. I can't remember the name of the patient. I'd met Gemma 18 months before my surgical foundation year. She was at a mutual friend's birthday dinner. Pretty sure it was a setup, but there she was. And it was just, I don't know, right. In the early days, we would talk for hours. Any subject. We barely agreed, but that was all part of it. Even when I was working crazy shifts and we'd hardly see each other, we'd talk on the phone. Though she always half joked that she always had to call me. I'd never call her. Thinking about it, I'm not sure I ever have. She was always good at keeping things going. She was the one who kept it together. 5 years after we met, Gemma hit her head. It didn't seem too badly. She'd been getting something from under the bathroom sink, stood up too quickly and hit her head on the basin. No blood, and she didn't think it was important enough to tell me. 2 days later, we were making lunch in the kitchen, and she started slurring her words. I made a joke about drinking at lunchtime. Then she collapsed. And out of nowhere, there it was. Back again. This roaring in my ears, which I thought I'd programmed myself to shut out. And for what felt like an hour, or a month, or a decade, I was frozen, deafened. Every voice in the world was screaming directly into my ears. Then something clicked, and I did what I was trained to do. Fell into automatic and did exactly what was needed to keep this patient alive. She spent 13 nights in intensive care and another 3 weeks in the neurology unit, recovering from the hematoma. I ran every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times. She made a full recovery, but I never did. Over the next 3 years, I slowly ground her down. "You're not here," she would say. "I don't know where you are, but you're not." We stopped having sex. I wanted to reach out to touch her, but I could never seem to get close enough to actually... I got really good at slipping into bed beside her without waking her. Sometimes, this is not... I mean, you have to... Sometimes, I would forget her name. Only for a fraction of a second, but just long enough that someone used to hearing your usual speech patterns would pick up. That Gemma could pick up. But Gemma did pick up. That hurt her the most. She tried to talk to me, but I never... She waited for me to come back to her for 3 years. In these last few weeks, right up until she left, she was different. She had the determination that comes from someone who's made a decision. The night I came home and found her wardrobe empty, I ran again. I ran as fast as I could for as long as I could. I don't know if it was sweat or tears that streamed down my face that night. I saw all of this, all at once. And then, suddenly, I was back in the operating theatre, back cutting out the clogged valve and replacing it with something new. And I understood. I knew. I knew the second I left I would call her. It might not be enough. It might be too late. But it was all I had. And then I'd sort the bins. When a dying heart gets enough of a shock, it can suddenly correct itself. And I just felt mine start beating again.
Another sleepless night where I can't go to bed, 'cause a list of regrets are running around my head about being a jerk to you and you and you. So if I see you again, this is what I'll do. Say I'm sorry to you and you and you and you. I promise back then I didn't know just what to do. I'll be better, I'll make up for it if you want me to. But still, I'm sorry to you and you and you and you. Yes, I was a bit of a shit, that much is true. So when it comes down to it, admitting it is all that I can do. That I'm sorry to you and you and you and you. I promise back then I didn't know just what to do. I'll be better, I'll make up for it if you want me to. But still, I'm sorry to you and you and you and you and you and you and you. Might not even remember, maybe the only one who really cares is me. The long list of my failings might just be a product of my anxiety. But still, I'm sorry to you and you and you and you. I promise back then I didn't know just what to do. I'll be better, I'll make up for it if you want me to. But still, I'm sorry to you and 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 you.
Thank you so much for watching the April instalment of our New Moon monologues. When we began organising this new writing night last September, we aimed to create a digital platform in which artists could network and create work amidst the continued uncertainty for the arts industry. Earlier this year, we crowdfunded over £2,000 to ensure that we were able to begin paying the incredible writers and performers that we work with each month. And now we are beyond excited to announce that next month's New Moon monologues will be performed on an actual theatre stage, and will see us moving our writing night into the Space Theatre, which will not only be live streamed to you at home, but also allow for a socially distanced audience in a limited capacity in the actual theatre itself. Our theme for next month's New Moon monologues will be growing together. And as we continue to see our writing night expand and grow, we hope you will join us on this journey as we take the stage at the Space on the 25th of May by submitting a monologue, poem or spoken word piece by the full moon or applying to be one of our performers. Happy New Moon, and we look forward to seeing you all next month.